The confirmation on Monday, September 8th, pushed CBS Daytime into a new orbit when the network announced a crossover between Beyond the Gates and The Bold and the Beautiful, sending Ridge into the Fairmont universe and creating a dual track of drama that runs alongside what he has just endured in Los Angeles. It is also the next handshake after Devon's August visit to Fairmont Crest, proof that CBS's strategy to expand a shared soap ecosystem has moved beyond experiment into a phase of connecting franchise-defining characters, while simultaneously placing Dani at the center of speculation about a coming realignment of love, work, and media optics as she makes a surprise trip to the West Coast. The groundwork for this moment was laid in Los Angeles over the preceding weeks, where Ridge, after a frayed journey, pulled back from his engagement to Taylor and, in the wake of the Naples ordeal, admitted his heart still pointed to Brooke. He pivoted with a swift, unadorned proposal and a plan for a no-frills office wedding with Carter officiating, a choice that doubles as an attempt to control the tempo of romance through speed and minimalism while leaving open the question that dogs every accelerated decision. What secures durability when history has repeatedly shown that passion and doubt can trade hands in a single day? The impulse to marry right here is not only an airy romantic flourish but a psychological tactic to lock off alternate routes that might appear if time were allowed to stretch, especially with Naples' aftershocks still pounding the shoreline of feeling. Yet even as the streamlined ceremony is set in motion, the question of its staying power hums like a taut string, primed to change pitch with any external vibration. Meanwhile, the Fairmont axis, where Dani has just stepped out of a depleted marriage to Bill, is opening a new schematic for her romantic identity and professional horizon. Viewers who have followed closely grasp that, post-divorce, Dani chose to date Andre, a younger man, as a form of emotional rehabilitation after years eroded by power, expectation, and costly compromise. But even as Andre fills a void, Dani's gravitational habit tugs toward men tempered by weather and position to steer the room, the exact type Ridge embodies. It is no accident that her sudden trip to Los Angeles arrived packaged with talk of shocks and a promising bond with a man like Ridge. On the career tier, the journey frames a tangible possibility. Dani stepping into model management or building a three-legged stool across music, fashion, and media at a house anchored in LA, where talent pipelines eagerly absorb strong personalities with vision and networks that instantly reframes the parallel calculus. Is Andre a fit when Dani slips into the current of a domain where collisions of clout are routine and calm? Seasoned emotional ballast decides whether a relationship survives the long haul, precisely the strain that quickly healing romances often fail to endure. In Los Angeles, Ridge's post-Taylor slide back toward Brooke once more exhibited his signature pattern, engineering the relationship's pace to amplify commitment quickly, betting that a compact ceremony will freeze the present mood into a harder-to-reverse state. Yet the very lock-fast strategy exposes hairline cracks when crosswinds arrive, especially in the form of a figure like Dani, who brings the energy of personal renewal and the potential to act as a media accelerant. And Dani, in a moment of reindexing her identity after divorce, could indeed read in Ridge a version of safety she once imagined with Bill. Not only financial and positional stability, but emergency handling, decisive cadence, and the habit of standing at the prow during storms. When these two psychological vectors intersect, the new Brooke tag is almost sure to be stapled onto Dani by the public. A label that is as seductive as it is risky. Seductive because it offers an easy comparative narrative, risky because it flattens Dani into a replacement silhouette when she is, in fact, a person with her own history, mistakes, hunger, and limits. Seen responsibly, if Dani exerts pull on Ridge, it is not because she mirrors someone from his past, but because both touch each other's deeper needs at precisely the moment when each believes that a fast decision might save them from the familiar loop of hesitation and fracture. Andre, in this map, is not merely a rehab layover or a convenient rung. He is the stress test for Dani's hardest question. What does she actually want from love after discovering that being with a powerful man like Bill means living with rolling media squalls and strategic calculus rather than quiet afternoons? Andre does not carry that history, and the lightness of his company helped Dani breathe again after the divorce. But Los Angeles is not Fairmont. Fashion is not the music media corridor near Washington, and an LA runway can turn anyone into the story after a single casting if the right friend is in the room. Should Dani edge closer to a seat in a major design house, Andre faces two branches. He can hit the gas, using proximity to Dani as leverage to climb, a shift quickly detected by both the public and internal teams, or he can step back to the right distance, the posture of a man mature enough to avoid turning love into a PR experiment. The trouble is that young hearts are easily triggered by the optics of wealth-seasoning intensity, especially if a camera catches Dani and Ridge in the same frame. Pride and the fear of comparison are Tinder in any age and status-skewed triangle, and a single tabloid headline can be enough to shake someone who has not yet built a hide tough enough for the glare. If any factor can slow or redirect Dani's drift toward LA, it is Devin. His August appearance at Fairmont was not just a historic cameo in CBS's cross-universe strategy. It also hammered a stake into Dani's current professional ground, where music and cross-platform media projects remain a viable path to fortify her name without wagering everything on a foreign habitat. If Devin continues to surface, he could deploy an operator's sense of the industry to counsel Dani against chasing glitter that burns out quickly, while helping her architect a durable bundle that knits music, fashion, and philanthropy. Of course, people rarely act according to optimal logic. Jealousy is a wild variable. How Devin responds if he sees Dani intimate with or even simply orbiting a fashion legend like Ridge will hinge on whether he views her as a strategic partner or a carried torch from prior collaborations. If it is the latter, he might reach for control, the exact mood that suffocates women trying to redraw their freedom and triggers overcorrection. For Ridge, the bottleneck is not Dani so much as himself. A man habituated to pace setting must adjust when faced with a woman who has her own flight path and refuses the shelter of any canopy. Old reflexes reemerge. Accelerate commitment, strip ceremony to essentials, and use speed to bandage fissures at risk of exposure. That is why the office wedding with Carter is both romantic and defensive. It's a handbrake yanked through a steep bend to keep the car gripping the curve. A handbrake, however, is for moments, not miles. The open road demands a well-tuned powertrain and a steady wheel. Every outside tremor, a doorstep photo of Dani and Ridge at an event, a coy network teaser about a promising connection, a sly internal comment, can become the pebble that flips the car if the trust bedrock between Ridge and Brooke has not been rebuilt after previous separations. This is also why the BTG times B&B crossover is more than a ratings pop. It's a test of writerly discipline on both shows. Maintain each character's psychological consistency while coaxing audiences across time slots, where a look from Dani in LA can ignite debates at Fairmont the next afternoon. For Dani, emotional memory is the unstable isotope. She chose Bill because he promised shelter, force, and a shortcut to the media launchpad. The cost was a woman's slow erosion under mirrors facing four directions: family, public, allies, and rivals. Andre replenished her oxygen after the split, but oxygen isn't fuel. For distance, Dani needs new fuel, perhaps work that restores her agency, or a healthy relationship that does not consign her to the archetype muse of a powerful man. If LA opens a lane in model management, she will sit where decisions are made rather than where decisions wash over her, and the love balance shifts with it. In that seat, she will be attracted less by parties and flashes than by KPIs, exclusivity clauses, and young faces who must be protected from the gossip grinder. That is a crucible for Dani to mature a second time, not as a new Brooke, the shallow public read, but as Dani, who has learned to protect herself and those for whom she is responsible. If he is sincere, Andre must recalibrate. Competing with Ridge on the axis of wealth-seasoning fervor is a race lost at the gun. His edge lies in co-creation, in growing with Dani inside a space where neither has already won. Co-authoring is what Ridge seldom offers because he is almost always positioned as the author. Andre can be the partner, the software that updates in real time, the steady hand Dani needs when the work tachometer spikes. But if Andre shortcuts by milking the relationship to break into LA fashion under Dani's shadow, the narrative will sprint to the cliff. Mass media needs only a crumb, a perfectly timed tag, a purported behind-the-scenes snap, a chance angle, to switch the tone from earnest younger man to opportunist. And Dani could lose both love and credibility. Devin, as the friend with shared history, will not sit quietly if he senses Dani being pulled too deep into LA's gravity at the expense of Fairmont's flagship projects. Protective instinct bleeds quickly into jealousy. Cross that thin line and he invites Dani's counter-defenses, pushing her to the opposite pole where every suggestion sounds like a command. If he frames the right questions about contract autonomy, staffing, and long-range communications, he can become a positive gatekeeper, ensuring that Dani is never reduced to content by show business while still harnessing its wind to travel farther. His august visit proved he knows how to set an offer on the table without turning it into a trap, and that quality will decide whether he is a bridge or a barricade in Dani's next chapter. On the metaplane, moving Ridge into Fairmont right after fast-tracking the office wedding is a two-front tactic. It keeps B&B humming with a swiftly resolved romantic knot while injecting fresh voltage into BTG through a high-symbol guest. Audiences accustomed to watching Ridge juggle vocational temptation and family entanglement will quickly spot the lurking variable. Is his presence away from LA a stress test for the vows he just pressed forward, or an excuse for the writers to hold up another mirror? This one in Dani's hand, reflecting a veteran seeking structural calm while Brooke, back in LA, believes the last episode marked a clean starting line? If the scripts are brave, the mirror will not crack a new marriage but will force self-interrogation. Ridge learning to love without steering, Dani learning to be free without wandering into hazard zones, Brooke learning to trust without slamming every door, Andre learning to prove himself without standing on someone else's shoulders, and Devin learning to accompany without possessing. The next episodes will rise or fall on how both rooms use small details to spark large questions. A mistimed text from Andre could reveal he courted a meeting with an LA casting team instead of showing up at a strategy session with Dani in Fairmont. A cunning weekend infotainment edit could inflate a doorstep chat between Dani and Ridge into a blazing bond. A vague comment from Devin about fall production might be misread as sabotage when it is merely a draft for sustainability. Third-party media, an invisible character with demolition power, will be pivotal. One search-optimized headline can upgrade might to is, and the only way to save narrative integrity then is to make characters act in line with their psychological history rather than chase the crowd, i.e. the end of the tunnel. The most compelling prize of this crossover is not whether Dani becomes someone's new version, or whether Ridge keeps a fresh promise, but whether BTG and B&B can tell a grown-up story that people can love again without plagiarizing memory, start over without erasing what they learned, meet at the right time without turning each other into props. If that happens, CBS's soap universe will add evidence that crossovers need not be mere viewbait. They can be reciprocal refractions, Fairmont borrowing LA's turbulence to push characters out of their safe harbors, LA borrowing Fairmont's caution to interrogate responsibility in love and decision-making. It is a delicate balance, yet precisely the kind that keeps viewers returning each afternoon, because every small decision knots into a wide lattice of consequence, and consequence is the most enduring addictive of daytime television. Looking back at confirmed waypoints, the frame is sturdy. The September 8th announcement that Ridge will appear at Fairmont, Devin's historic August bridge-building visit. In LA, Ridge's streamlined wedding plan with Brooke and Carter as officiant, Naples as an emotional inflection point swinging his compass back to familiar coordinates, thereby opening a door for Dani. What remains is how the writers sketch the small lanes between the big posts and whether they dare give Dani sufficient agency to escape comparative shadows. If yes, we will watch Dani use LA as a lab for management acumen and boundary setting. If not, she will be squeezed into a reflective role in Ridge's life, something Dani herself likely rejects. For the audience, the stage is open. Each new episode might be a step forward or back, but in any case, the story has achieved the necessary condition, creating a fertile interzone of emotional and event data for fans to argue, predict, and wait upon. Finally, the short list of signals worth tracking in the days ahead. Any indication that Dani formally tests model management waters or signs into a structural role in LA. Any behind-the-scenes moment showing Andre choosing to support rather than shortcut. Any continued Devon movement at Fairmont that re-anchors projects bearing Dani's name. And above all, any sign out of LA clarifying whether the office wedding, with Carter presiding, is a finished decision or a placeholder pin the script's plan to stress with collisions from the crossover zone. When those signals sharpen, the answers to the live questions. Does Dani truly love Andre, or is she borrowing him for recovery? Does she perceive in Ridge a safe love? Is Andre sincere or climbing? Will Devon intervene if she wades too deep into B&B? If jealousy pinches, will he act? Will exit speculation and enter the realm of contracts, actions, and choices? That is when the tale will stop being merely an event crossover and stretch into a long-form line about how people rewrite their formulas after each shattering. Inside a television universe learning to weave without tearing the threads that define each show's identity.